All right, and we're live. Welcome to the Connected Learning video cast. My name is Patrick Dempsey. I'm a St. Louis 8th grade science teacher here. And with me today, I have Andrew Goodin, who is in his 8th year teaching, and he is a makerspace teacher at Grand Center Arts Academy. And I've known Andrew for a little while, and he was one of the inspirations that helped me start my makerspace in Webster Groves. So I know that you guys are in for a treat in just hearing about how he started his vision and how he got started in makerspace. So here we go. Andrew, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrew, tell us about your journey to Grand Center Arts Academy and how you came into a makerspace there.
Absolutely. It started a lot like this. So two teachers having a conversation about innovation and learning and best practices. The other educator at that time was Gregory Hill, and he was teaching Spanish at Walnut Park in St. Louis, and I was teaching chemistry at Soldian. And we would talk about learning a lot. And so that led to the formation of a nonprofit organization called the Disruption Department. Our first pilot experience was acquiring a bunch of laptops donated by MasterCard. And at Soldan, I started a club called Tech Army. And the goal of this club was to refurbish these laptops for use in my chemistry class. And these they needed new operating systems. Some of the keys were broken. Some hard drives had to be replaced. And
That's
so I imagined,
awesome.
yeah. So I estimated it would take, I don't know, like 6 months, maybe the entire year before I'm actually able to use these laptops in my chemistry classes. But they got most of them up and running within 2 weeks. And so 2 weeks after that first Tech Army meeting, we were able to have laptops.
Wow.
And
so you had a real problem, and you just kind of gave kids some skills to solve that problem, and then you went after it. That's awesome.
And it was led by their passion. You know, they're coming to Tech Army after school for fun as a club. So from there, we talked, what would it be like if students learned like this all of the time? And that led to the pilot of 5 or so different programs. But the one that stuck was we pitched this idea of a makerspace to the leadership at Grand Center Arts Academy. We started really small, Fridays only for one semester. This was 4 years ago. And
before makerspace was cool, people.
Right? Yeah.
This was
tiny little office
before makerspace buzzword. I mean, that had to throw people off. They were just like, "What? What is this? What is this thing?" So how'd that go?
They were initially, so our mindset back then was that we need to start with an empty room and have students design the space. And that was by nature of the materials we had, but then also let's try this. It's very low risk. That year, our total budget was $100 for the entire year. So we made really good friends with the custodian and had him drop off any cardboard that was left throughout the building. So it was all very, very low tech prototypes, very low tech inventions. But it was a huge hit. Teachers loved it, administrators loved it, students loved it. And so the next year I was hired on to run the makerspace full time.
Wow. So what I get out of that was makerspace started with, before it was a problem that you're solving with broken computers that taught kids how to fix. And then when it really started, you had cardboard. And so I think a lot of times people get into this, we want a makerspace in our school or in our classroom, but we need stuff. And I feel like people get caught up in the stuff a whole lot. But I mean, your beginnings are low tech or stuff that, people didn't want anymore, broken computers. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Whenever I talk with somebody about starting a makerspace, I always encourage them to start super small, prototype this, pilot this, and then you can always iterate with the fancy laser cutters, 3D printers, CNC routers from there.
Yeah. Awesome. So now you are a full-time makerspace teacher at Grand Center Arts Academy. What does a typical day look like for you? If there is
Wow.
such a thing, really.
Yeah. So every day is incredibly different. Actually, today's a perfect example of that. So the makerspace model now is a hybrid model, which means students come in as part of a regular portion of their schedule, classes in the makerspace, but then there's also drop-in time available. So today, for instance, the day started with, actually, you were part of this event back when it was the Canes Arcade Carnival we had today.
Yes,
And so
love
this
that one.
the second project in our semester-long middle school class. And so today was the big payoff. Students have worked for a long time designing games that are fun. And today, other students came in to play those games. The next period, that actually was second period. First period, we were doing computer programming with Scratch. And we're just at the very beginning of this project. But students are learning the basics. They're remixing programs. They're the defined challenges. How might we make this game more challenging, addictive, and fun? And then there were some students who dropped in, and the day closes out with an advanced makerspace course. So these are students who took a class the year before, and they are working on digital portfolios. And then at the end of the day is our school has a flex time. And so we do character development. It's a homeroom style class. But yeah,
Gotcha.
every day is incredibly different tools, different experiences, different points along the design thinking framework.
That's great. So grade level of kids that you see throughout the day?
It's this year is the first year that our school has had a senior class, and as such, there's been some scheduling kinks to work out. So it ended up being that most of the students who are accessing Makerspace this year are middle school students. In the past, there have been high school classes as well. And actually, I met with the counselor today to figure out how we can include high schoolers as part of classes for next year.
Cool. So is this like an elective class that people come to, or can people come to on their free period? How does that work?
Yeah, so the Design Thinking 101, that Scratch programming class, and then the Carnival class were both middle school electives. And then later in the afternoon, there's drop-in time that if a student receives a pass from his or her teacher, they can come to the Makerspace and work on a passion project or 20% time project.
Got it. Nice. So how do you know Makerspace is working? You have kids doing design thinking, they're coming in, they're working, a problem that you give them or a problem that they've seen and building a solution for that. How do you know what are your goals and how do you know it's working?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. When I think about the goals of Makerspace, I think two different ones. The first is the acknowledging that design thinking is a really simple process, but it takes a lot of practice, just like playing an instrument. Relatively simple, but to be good at it takes a ton of practice. And so I look for mastery of design thinking skills. And the vision I have for that, there's this old wacky video from IDEO where they lead the redesign of a shopping cart. And I show that video to students. It's pretty old video. And I say, I would love it if by the end of the class, you could be a voice at that table because you understand the process of solving challenges using design thinking. And so I know that Makerspace is working because students are approaching that vision. At the beginning of the year, it definitely starts very teacher-centered where I'm facilitating the design thinking.
Sure.
But as we're seeing in our advanced class, these are students who have had Makerspace classes for 2 years. They're beginning to lead their own design thinking experiences with minimal coaching from me. The second goal is building creative confidence. And this is spawning from when I asked at the beginning of the year last year, what's the best idea you've ever had? And across the board, students said, I've never had a good idea. And so so the idea that Makerspace offers an opportunity to pursue a bunch of challenges using a bunch of crazy tools that students have most likely never interacted with, and building the creative confidence by nature of tackling these challenges many times throughout the year.
Yeah. Wow. It's just neat to neat to hear. And those seniors that you have now, like, you've messed them up for life.
Yeah, hopefully.
They know now how to go forward, solve problems, and use tools in the process. And that's awesome to hear. And that's neat that you are having seniors now just go for it.
And those seniors are cataloging their design experiences on digital portfolios so that then they can use those to, there's the Open Portfolio Project where now 200 universities have signed on and have agreed to accept digital portfolios as part of the application process. So I guess that would be a tertiary goal, is students using their makerspace experiences, documenting in an authentic way, and then using that to pursue whatever future opportunities they would like.
Yeah, and just show their work and their voice in a whole different way. That's neat. So are you continuing to help students create, and so as you continue to help students create and now having your own makerspace classroom, what have you learned along the way? What would you say to someone getting started with makerspace?
Wow. So just as I guide students through the process of design thinking, the makerspace has been our product so I model the process of design thinking through the development of the makerspace. And I think back to that room 4 years ago, tiny little office, a little bit of cardboard, $100 worth of stuff from the Dollar Tree, and now where we are today. And the reason that we are where we are today in this beautiful room that overlooks Powell Symphony Hall with a classroom component and a maker workshop area is because we've iterated according to the process of design thinking. We found bugs in the system of the way that we've attempted and have squashed those bugs by brainstorming solutions and prototyping and implementing and continually iterating. So I think as I've seen makerspaces develop at other schools, the first concept is that makerspace is not plug and play. A makerspace at one school will look nothing like a makerspace at the other school. And I think about how different your makerspace looks compared to what we have, compared to what all of the other schools have.
Yeah.
If there is one common thread, though, among makerspaces, I think it's a need for flexibility. If you operate and make decisions with the mindset that this is going to be a flexible space, more often than not, those decisions are going to end up paying off in the end.
Makerspaces do not look all the same.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
I saw somewhere it was like makerspace in a box, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, that's a really good, I like the concept, but every place is different and every teacher is different, and we're all going to put that together in a different way. I love the idea of, the makerspace is never done, and you're using design thinking to constantly reinvent what it looks like as you have different kids and as just your ideas evolve as well. That's just good for you for just being so flexible with that. That's awesome. What's a good resource for learning about makerspace in the school setting?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one resource is Invent to Learn, which is a book. Actually, there's a ton of great books, especially as makerspaces have become more popular. And so I've collected those on a Tumblr website, drewblet.tumblr.com. And it's just my bookshelf. Many of them are tagged with makerspace, the makerspace tag. But if you're going to read one book, that Invent to Learn book is fantastic. It walks through the mindsets of makerspace, how to get started with a makerspace, and tools for starting a makerspace.
Yeah, that's good. And I think one for me that was a good resource. I don't know if it was the best, but the makerspace playbook was just good to like just get your eyes on and just start to think about it, how it would work.
The one thing I will say I love, man, if there could be a makerspace playbook where they cut out that last section that is so scary with all of the tools and the costs, because that so frequently just gets copy and pasted into grants, and we need this, we need this, we need this. And if instead we approach grants themselves tend to be very anti-design thinking, because you pitch this entire concept and then you cross your fingers and hope that it's going to work when students actually engage with it. But if with all education stuff, we could work through design thinking and start small and then expand from there, I think it'd be incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you came at it from, we have a problem. I don't have enough computers in my room. Kids have an interest in fixing computers. Let's go. And I think with the makerspace that Rob and I do, it was, how do we get these projects that we're doing in science, how do we get them up to the next level? And providing kids with those tools brought those projects up, brought their work up. And so it's kind of, how do we make project-based learning better?
Yeah.
Pairing it with the makerspace idea and the mobile makerspace we have was perfect. But
yeah, and your constraints are so much different than my constraints.
Sure.
The idea that your makerspace is on a cart and that you've thought how, okay, let's test this. I imagine that there's been tweaking as part of that. I think the one thing that transcends all of this makerspace stuff is flexibility or design thinking.
Yes. Yeah. Make it for you and your kids and your place.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. So Andrew, how do people get a hold of you if they want to learn more, if they have questions?
So my hashtag for the year, on the onset of this year, last year I had 4 preps that were all new to Makerspace. And so if I was not teaching, I was planning nonstop. This year, my hashtag that's guiding me is documentation. So I'm really trying to do a better job documenting, and all of that documentation goes on the Makerspace blog, gcaamakerspace.wordpress.com. You can also follow the Makerspace on Twitter at GCAA Makerspace and Instagram. And then my personal Twitter account is Mr_Makerspace, because for about the first 6 months, that's what kids called me.
Mr. Makerspace?
Mr. Makerspace, yeah.
That's awesome. That is so great. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up here. So, Andrew, thank you very much for being our guest. Your guest number 2 on our show.
Yeah, it is so awesome. It is so awesome that you're doing this. I just love that. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be fun. So thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
Yeah. And on behalf of the Connected Learning leadership team, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.